Hi guys, my name is Evan Wilder from Ewo Entertainment, and today I want to talk about change. Now I know in today's world that word gets thrown around like every single thing, like epic and awesome, so much so that it kind of deletes its entire meaning of the word. But we don't really think about the implications of change. And today I want to talk to you guys about change. Now, basically, last night I was actually with my girlfriend, and I was actually in the middle of the night, and I was actually looking at some news stories about what was actually happening. Now it was around 11 or 11:59, around midnight, and I was hearing about something about Ferguson. And I think at that moment, probably not as much as I'm realizing this right now, is that we don't really get our news from news stations anymore. I mean, sure, every now and then you get some blog articles, but for the first time, I was able to get my news from Twitter. And it's really baffling because no one in 20 years would have thought that we could get our news from 140 characters. It was just, you couldn't think of it. You couldn't even imagine it. It was kind of impossible. But here we are. I got my news about the military extensions and Ferguson over a riot about an 18-year-old boy who ended up getting killed by a police officer. Kind of interesting you think about that, but that's how we end up getting our news. And another thing I actually want to talk about is about these conversations I have on Twitter. Now, I had a conversation with LeSean Thomas. Now, for anyone who's not really familiar in the animation field, he is basically involved with a lot of shows such as Kim Possible and Boondocks and Legend of Korra. And he's basically very involved, very talented animator, very talented artist. And 10 years ago, it would have been very impossible for me to talk to him at the time about his work on Kim Possible. It's just because he'd just be very busy or he'd be very away from distances. This is a guy who goes all the way from America to South Korea and he still animates. It's just to think on that level that it will be very difficult. One, given that I was probably a kid back then, but two, I wouldn't have any availability for me to contact him as well. It just would have been impossible. And speaking of change, then I also want to talk about The Legend of Korra. Even though season 3 is kind of labeled change, everything about it seems to be, the whole series itself seems to be focused around change. So I want to talk about how basically they're actually bringing 2D animation to the digital realm, and the animation is just flawless. But this season has been pretty drastic. Not from the storyline, although you could kind of expect it to be good, but from a different standpoint, where Nickelodeon, who actually used to air the entire show on their TV channel, has actually moved it to their online network. Kind of what we've been talking about for a few years, like we just said, change. So instead, they've actually moved it from the TV network all the way to the internet network, and it's been markedly more successful, as they even said it themselves. So things are starting to change a bit. Now, let's actually talk about really, really big changes I've actually have noticed recently. And this actually does affect us. Although the other stuff does, that's on a minor level. That's change you understand, but I want to talk to you guys about what's going on a geopolitical front. And yes, this whole entire conversation between you and I is going to be somewhat of a bit of a segue going in and out. And one of the things about geopolitical situations I want to talk to you about, and I'm actually going to read this from a notebook because I want to get this right. I got the articles posted. The articles where I got this information is actually posted in the newsletter, so feel free to read it so you can actually see that, oh yes, he didn't just pull this out of his ass, he's actually telling the truth. So, with that said, Switzerland recently signed a bilateral trade currency swap with China, which allows them to either buy, sell, or trade up to 150 billion renminbi or 21 Swiss francs. Now, this is nothing new, but this is big. Oh, why is this big? Because recently, before, it used to always be the countries that would usually sign these bilateral trade agreements would be places like Indonesia, places like India, places like Brazil. They usually sign these bilateral trade agreements. These were countries outside of the Anglo-American Empire. And now we actually have a country that's actually in Europe signing trade swap agreements with China. So basically, the rest of the world is beginning to catch on that most of the power, the financial power, something I've been talking to you guys about for awfully long while, been kind of long-winded about it. That is actually the rest of the world is starting to catch on to the trend that renminbi and that the most of the power is actually going towards the east. So that's what's going on right now. Now, bringing even more to that fact, BBC, the official news of London, has actually recently reported that the China Construction Bank will actually be London's renminbi clearing hub or clearing house, as that actually means that most of the renminbi will actually end up going through London. So basically, they're actually doing this in efforts to actually rebalance the economy. So it's a nice term, but what does that mean? Well, it means that a lot of countries are starting to get really, really tired of how the economic system is and how they're actually saying that, we can't really rely on a country that's the biggest debtor on earth with $17 trillion in national debt. And right now, this is what's falling right now. So what this really means is that China's going to become the number one economy. The United States is starting to lose primacy. And basically, I really started to see that renminbi may be replaced as a new household term for dollar. So that's kind of something I have been seeing into. So what does this mean for us? Well, like I said before, recently, we're going to be starting a Chilean incorporated company through the Chilean IRS or Internal Revenue Services over there. And like I said, yes, you can actually incorporate your business for free and through Chile, sponsored by the government of Chile. I researched it, checked it out, it checks out, it's actually pretty well solid. And I also said that I was actually going to look into getting Singaporean bank accounts. Like I said, yes, that can actually be done. And the thing is that, yes, that is a path that we're still going on to. And one thing I actually started to realize is that in order to actually do that beforehand, I had to actually go to renminbi. I actually had to go to Singapore in person, look for all the banks, and basically start a business account in there in person. And even then, you have to put like a deposit in there. And most of these deposits are probably around from, at least on the cheapest side, will probably be around $10,000. And now you can actually do it on the internet, and the deposits have to be $5,000, which is great. And one thing that actually got me thinking about recently, even throughout this week, I was kind of joking with this idea, and I was saying that, well, that's great. I can actually get the Singaporean business bank account after all without having to go to Singapore. That's actually a wonderful thing. And the thing is, I actually do need $5,000. And I was thinking about how to actually do it. And basically, this is going to keep segueing to other topics. But I was actually going to go into crowdfunding for that. Now, there is a very particular situation that we're actually looking at. But what I'm actually looking more forward to doing, and we'll talk about later in this newsletter, is that I'm actually going to be building up fan bases for each individual show and basically come up. We probably need more than $5,000, but actually be able to crowdfund enough money for deposits while also being able to have the fans who are actually very involved and interested in every show that we're going to post out, will actually be able to. So they actually be able to found two campaigns for the price of one, because that money will actually be going to the Singaporean bank account, and then afterwards, we'll actually begin the actual crowdfunding campaign with the Singaporean business account in mind. So basically, right now, I'm actually I'm actually in the process of actually networking like crazy, not just in a professional level with other professionals, but also when it actually comes to establishing fan bases right now. So one of the ways I actually have an idea of doing that, in short, is through crowdfunding with the fans of each individual show as we build that up. So basically, that's something I'm going to get started right away, because it's always better to establish relationships beforehand before you actually need something. Always better to actually do that beforehand and to put your best foot forward in the first hand. So, actually, that is a good segue. I'm looking at the outline, but that is actually a good segue right here. But the segue is I will be building fan bases for each show, so that way we'll be able to crowdfund it as well. So I do believe that the fans will be more involved. And speaking of bringing shows into the limelight, I also want to actually congratulate Rob McAllister for actually being the creator of Myth Earth. I have read your last email. I haven't got a chance to answer it back, but I'm very glad. That actually brings our complete count of the shows that we're going to be producing this production season to the total number of 16. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 16. See, that took 4 hands for me to count. So basically, we're all going to do all these crowdfunding campaigns all at the same time. I assure you, we will not go unnoticed. But yes, that is actually I know that's a lot of shows. 7 of them are going to be 11-minute episodes. Which, by the way, I gotta speak to everyone. I gotta speak to Kevin about the whole recording length of the episodes, because we read on 5 to 11. I think it's going to be 11, so I'm going to speak to you more intimately about that, Kevin. So that's one thing I'm actually going to talk to you about. So other than that, that's actually what's been happening. So 7 of the shows are going to have 11-minute episodes, and let's see, 7 minutes. Yeah, because it's 4, 5, 9. Yeah, that makes sense. 9. Yes, that 9 of the shows are actually going to be 30 minutes. Something you'll probably see on Netflix, or something you'll see on a TV screen as well, on TV length. So 9 30-minute episodes and 7 11-minute shows. And we're just going to focus on those for this season. I got a lot of ideas for next season, but if we focus on too many ideas, we never get off the ground. So we're going to save them for next season. So that's what we're going to end up doing. I'm actually going to segue back into another subject. Like I said, I have been networking very moderately. And what does that mean? I've been networking a lot with professionals lately. I've been doing this not just for EWO Entertainment. I've been all over Twitter. You probably have noticed. Maybe not. I don't know. But I have been all over Twitter, and I have been able to actually get involved, be able to actually talk with a lot of professionals. So I'm trying to find the right word. I've been connecting people with one another. It's hard to understand. It's hard to actually explain this, but in such concise terms. But the best way I can explain it is that basically, like I said before, I've been harping on that we have to get more guest stars and more noticeable people, or people who are actually more famous, people who are actually doing things. And I actually have been getting those people in line as well. So that way, I'm trying to get everyone before the crowdfunding starts. So I'm trying to get the journalists involved, I'm trying to get the podcasters involved. And so that way, when we start crowdfunding, the first thing we can actually do is create press. That's the best thing we can do. Create press, create content, but also create those relationships beforehand. And one thing I have learned about the internet is that a shocking rule, is that in the real world, or even before the internet, money seemed to come first, and relationships came second. And in the internet, it seems that relationships come first, then the money comes second. So basically, that's what we're starting to see, and I actually have been experimenting with networking with a lot of professionals. And I will also be taking that, like I said beforehand, I'll also be taking that more seriously when it actually comes for the fans. So each show will have its own Twitter, its own Facebook, although I will probably use Facebook a little less until, because you actually need money to actually work with Facebook in order to post, in order to get your stuff towards your audience in that fashion. So I'll be working more on Twitter. I'll be working more on Instagram again. So I'm just going to be everywhere with each individual show, and that's what I'm actually going to be end up doing later on, but very as soon as possible. So that's something that I have been actually working on right now. So I'll try and get all these journalists in the mix, and like I said, by the time we get them all involved, they'll have a crew, they have a great news story involved, they're up, they're ready to go, and we could just we can actually just start doing all these interviews. I'll be ready to go. So about that unschooled script, I'm still writing it, but I did actually save that I did actually leave that in the message so you can see how far I actually gotten with it. Most of the scripts I've written are actually 30 minutes. I've noticed they tend to be between 50 pages to, at the maximum, 90. And it's weird because by the time it takes for you to read them, it always seems to take you like at least 30 minutes to you read the script. It takes about weeks for it to create, but it takes like 30 minutes to actually read the entire script. So I'm very descriptive in the writing. It's animation. You have to be very descriptive when it comes to writing everything. You want to make sure that your vision comes clear, and you want to make sure that I don't want to say make sure the camera angle is perfect, but you want to have some idea some concrete idea to give to the storyboard artist, so that way they don't always have to try to guess which camera angle you want to go for this way. So that way I have been very descriptive in the writing. As you will actually see, or need to be reminded, I put a bunch of spec scripts so you guys can see how long usually these spec scripts tend to be for 30-minute shows. So that way you guys will actually understand. And it comes out to be 37 pages, but I'm not even halfway done with it yet. And even then, that's excluding the beginning part. The beginning part of the script is like 10 minutes. It's like 10 pages. So altogether, that's like 47 pages right there. So already that's like a lot of freaking pages. We're already looking at that. So that's what that's what I'm actually working on. And by the time you're probably watching this, like if you're watching this like later today, I'm probably still working on that script, and I'm probably still networking with a lot of people on Twitter and LinkedIn, so that way we have more people to actually talk to, build solid relationships with, and that way we also have to be able to get more guest stars as well. On another front, I actually wanted to talk to you about, in the last newsletter, I talked to you guys about doing a podcast with you guys involved. I'm still going to do that. But what I also want to do is I want to create credibility. So when people research me, like we all do, we all research things before we buy them now. Like myself, I know what laptop I want, and I research that too. We all do research. And one thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to end up creating a vlog series. So I may put that around here in the show, not in the show, and in the newsletter as well, so you guys can be caught up about what the podcast is. Because, that way, at least you guys will be informed, and you guys can actually end up having a very good time laughing as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing. It's called Philosophy Comedy. It's not supposed to be famous. It's not supposed to be the show that gets us famous or anything like that. It's supposed to be something that someone's going to Google, someone's going to type it down, someone's going to try to find me, and this is something I can do in the short term that provides credibility. That's all that kind of is right now. And if I network through that show too, then the better. So that's pretty much it. So other than that, oh shoot. Oh, say, oh yeah, the entrepreneurship camp did happen. I did not get in, unfortunately, and I'm contemplating about attaching the application video. The only good thing about the application video was the testimonials. Those were the best parts. Looking back, everything else is laughable. The testimonials were great. They were wonderful. They were spectacular. And I would dare say they're the best part of the entire application video. The best part. Literally the best part. Literally the best part. Like, I'm not even kidding. The best part of the entrepreneurship camp application video. Which, by the way, it still makes me cry. I should actually watch that again and again and again. But next year, I will definitely be upping the production value. All I had was a laptop. We didn't have a smartphone at the time. I didn't even have this dumb phone at the time. Actually, I did, but we didn't even use it, which was stupid of me not to do. But we should have actually done that instead. All I had was myself, neighborhoods, Detroit, and a very reluctant camera woman that I'm still romantically involved with. So, I guess since I told you guys about it now, I guess I have to put it in there. So, yeah. So, other than that, there have been no new changes whatsoever. Nothing new has ever happened. Everything is still the same. Okay, the little things have changed. I got dreads. Or, I'm getting dreads. Okay, other than that.